السلام عليكم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الخلق وأشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He described Prophet Muhammad in Surah Al-Anbiya, He said, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you but as mercy to all mankind. Notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say we sent you with mercy to mankind. No, Prophet Muhammad himself is a block of mercy to all mankind. A major part of that mercy to mankind, a major part and proof of the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, is the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In that Quran is the wisdom. In that Quran is the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In that Quran is the way to live the most fulfilling, joyful, satisfying life on our way, inshallah, to the eternal, ultimate pleasure of paradise. When you look at the Quran, you need to pay attention to three parts. And each one, subhanallah, is almost more important than the other one. The first part is what is the Quran? The what? The Quran in itself is the know-how. What do we mean by that? If you look at anyone in our society, let's say you go to a hospital. There's a doctor that makes $500,000 a year, and there's a nurse who does not make as much. What is the difference? The doctor knows how to perform surgery and how to attempt to heal people. The nurse maybe does not know. There's even at another level, a mechanic who gets maybe $40 or $50 or $100 an hour, and some cleaner who cleans, streets or whatever it is, and the difference is, subhanallah, huge. Why? That one knows how to fix the car, the other one does not know how. The Quran, subhanallah, it was even a new revert to Islam. He was the Guantanamo guard that accepted Islam inside Guantanamo, Terry Holt Brooks. We had an event with him in South Jersey yesterday, and he said that to me, and I know it, but subhanallah, Allah subhanallah through the fitrah, showed it to him. He told me when I read the Quran the first time inside Guantanamo, I realized what it is. And I asked him, what was it for you? He said, it's an instruction manual of living. It's how to live our lives. It's the blueprint of how you, inshallah, maximize your being, your ability, reaching the best potential you can possibly be, being the best Muslim, best human being you can possibly be. In Surah Al-Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about our deen, which the Quran is the core essence of it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu istajibu lillahi wa lirrasuli idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. What's in the Quran, the guidance and the obedience in the Quran is to revive ourselves, to bring a renaissance to us, to give us the success that we need in our life. And the ultimate success, inshallah, is to make it to Jannah. Believing in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We heard the adhan before we pray the Isha recited. We listen to the adhan 5 times a day. But do we really pay attention? There's a difference between listening and paying attention. The core message of the adhan is Hayya ala salah. It's the pillar of our deen. It's what separates a kafir from a Muslim. But salah for the purpose of what? Hayya ala al-falah. Falah is success. Come to pray, come to the deen so you'll be successful. The core essence of that success is the Quran. But subhanallah, the Quran itself could be, even if you memorize it all, even if you understand the interpretation all, could be for you on Judgment Day, or could be against you. Quran was not sent to us just to read. Quran was sent to us first to understand, to contemplate, for the purpose of applying it in our own life. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ غَيْرِ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَبِيرًا. It is for us to understand. And the point of understanding the Quran is to apply it in our own life, as the brother had said, to use it as a manual. You want to fix the computer, you get the manual of that computer. You want to fix the Sony TV, you bring the Sony manual. And it's the only manual that can fix that device. SubhanAllah, a lot of people get amazed about the unbelievable achievements of the early Muslims, the companions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. The Roman Empire, the biggest power in the world, covered the 3 known continents. It took them 800 years. The early Muslims, coming out of a desert with absolutely nothing, ruled the world with justice, peace, best living standard, with the rule of the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in less than 83 years. How could you possibly do that? Can you imagine that in today countries, what is today is Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Iran were all open for Islam within just 1 year? Can you imagine that? 1 year. How could you possibly do that? You want to know the secret? SubhanAllah. Sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but dealing with the Quran in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it, so it can benefit you, so it can get you that renaissance. Abdurrahman ibn Umar al-Khattab has tell us the secret. And we need to pay attention. كنا نحفظ القرآن, the way they used to memorize the Quran, كنا نحفظ 10 آيات لا ننتقل إلى ما بعدها حتى نعمل بها. When they used to memorize the Quran, they used to memorize the Quran 10 ayat at a time. And they would not move to memorizing the next set of 10 ayat till they have applied the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first 10 ayat. In every way in their life, the obedience, the understanding, the meanings. And when you do that in your life, subhanallah, every 10 ayat of the Quran, you can, subhanallah, have the kind of success that no one could ever have. But with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Quran was not just sent to us. Oh, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe in the Quran, we take it as is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those who do not know, for those who did not receive the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as being born as Muslims, the people who did not get their Islam on a silver platter, those who know nothing about Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the Quran in it, inside it, a proof and ever challenge to everyone that this is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the manual and the blueprint for the best life. Subhanallah. As science advances, more miracles and more proofs, undeniable proofs, appear in the Quran that this is truly the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what you need to follow. This is what you miss in your life. Many times throughout the past 1400 years, we read Surah Al-Mu'minun, chapter 23, from verses from 12 to 14. And it speaks about the evolvement of an embryo in a mother's womb. It starts with a nutfa, then a alaqa, then a mudgha, and then into adham. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would clothe these bones with flesh. But when science received the knowledge of the electronic microscope just 50 or 60 years ago, people were shocked. Dr. Keith Moore, who's the Dean of Embryology of the University of Toronto, and he was not a Muslim, said it's impossible that a man in the middle of 7th century, without any medical training, can explain pinpoint accurate details of the microscopic formations of the embryo in a woman's womb without being the prophet of God. Because it's impossible. It has to be God, creator of man, who had revealed it to him. It starts with a piece of cloth. Anyone can imagine that. What about a mudgha? A mudgha is something that you chew in your mouth, a piece of chew. When they looked with the advent of microscopes, you look at, like, if you have a piece of dough and you bite with your teeth into it, you'd leave teeth marks. It looks like a piece of chew that somebody bit into it. But these teeth marks are nothing but the beginning of the formation of your backbone. It looks like somebody bit into that piece of chew. And you look at the picture, subhanAllah, it's amazing. And then the condition or the stage of alaqa is like a leech. And not only that it looks exactly like a leech, but actually functions like a leech. What does a leech do? It latches into a host and sucks the nutrients out of that host. But that's exactly what an embryo looks like when it latches into the wall of a mother's womb and sucks the nutrients out. How will Prophet Muhammad know? وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. And if that is not enough, and this is the creation of man, what about the creation of the universe itself? 1925, with the telescopes and the advancement of science, Edwin Hubble came and said, you know what? Now we have a theory that shows us how the universe started. It's called the Big Bang Theory. What is the Big Bang Theory? The entire universe was one body. There was a huge explosion, and out of that explosion came the stars and the planets and everything that we know. Subhanallah, you go back to Surah Al-Anbiya. أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. Didn't the disbelievers see that heavens and earth were one enjoined body and then we tore it apart? Can that be a coincidence? Subhanallah. And as if that is not enough, look at the continuation of the same verse that told us how the universe started. Ask anyone in NASA right now, what have you spent $600 million on for the past few years? It's the frontier project of NASA, that is looking for signs of life on planet Mars. When they look for signs of life, what are they looking for? Emails, furniture, iPhones, what are they looking for? They're looking for water. The same verse that taught us how the universe started is telling us, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And out of water, we have created every living thing. How could you possibly, 1400 years ago, in the middle of 7th century, realize the event by which the universe was created billions of years ago? Is that enough? No. Scientists would tell us that out of that explosion, it was not just the stars and the sun and the moon and planet Earth right away. Out of that explosion came billions of lights of years of smoke, and within that smoke there were areas that were so intense. Out of that intensity, out of that condensation came stars. Stars were born. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, Surah Fussilat, ثم استوى إلى السماء والأرض وهي دخان ثم استوى إلى السماء وهي دخان وقال لها والأرض ائتيا طوعا أو كرها فقال لها ائتيا طوعا أو كرها قالتا أتينا طائعين فقال لها والأرض أتينا طائعين. So the explosion was smoke. How could Prophet Muhammad ﷺ know that the universe first was smoke and then the planets and the solid object, the cosmic bodies, became like that? You cannot even imagine that. Nowadays, if I didn't tell you the fact, you could not imagine it. You didn't know about it till I told you. And then comes the most amazing thing. The latest of the discoveries of NASA is the condition of the edges of the universe. What they told us is that with the measurements that they did, that the edges of the universe are expanding. That explosion is still happening at the edges of the universe. Subhanallah, in Surah Al-Zariyat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. And the skies we have created with our powers, and we are expanding it. Can you imagine that even a human being nowadays with college education come with that fact on his own? Impossible. What about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told his prophet, قُلْ لَا أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ. I do not know the unknown. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who reveals it to me. And not only that, but even as science advances, we discover even more things by the day. في سورة الروم, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ فِي أَدْنَى الْأَرْضِ, the Romans were defeated in the lowest point of earth. And subhanallah, for the past 1400 years, the miracle was that Prophet Muhammad told in advance that yes, the Romans were defeated, but after their defeat, they will be victorious. في بضع سنين. بضع سنين in the Arabic language is less than 10 years. Exactly 9 years. And even after the passing of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the Romans had a major victory over the Persians, which in itself, major, subhanallah, proof of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad his messenger. Why would Prophet Muhammad get out of his own way, predict the outcome of a war between two sworn enemies to Islam? If he makes a mistake and it doesn't happen that way, then everyone is not going to believe in Islam anymore. But when science came in, now we have satellites. Satellites can show us the topography of planet Earth. And we have a map about exactly, pinpoint, accurate, the highest and lowest point on Earth. Scientists would tell you that exactly where this battle happened, in today's Jordan, by the bank of the Dead Sea, it was exactly the lowest point on the surface of the Earth. Exactly about 1,300 feet below the surface of sea level. How did Prophet Muhammad know that? And so on and so forth. It is there in the Quran, the proof that, subhanAllah, this is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the recipe, this is the manual, this is the blueprint for success. But we need to receive the gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone can give you a gift and you can deny it. To receive the gift, to maximize the ultimate benefit and blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not just to read the Quran, understand the Quran with the intention and the sincerity that I want to apply this in my life. No one had ever believed in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and was sincere in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala according to the Quran and according to the Sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was not the most successful person, human being that he was. I want to give you a quick example, inshallah, because I want to finish shortly. I had traveled to Egypt around January and met the brothers there, inshallah, in the Dawah Salafiyya in Iskandariya, in Alexandria. And I was surprised. I know they're very respectable people. They don't make, fictitious claims. And everyone is calling me Dr. Mostafa. Automatically. And I'm an engineer, not a doctor. And it bothered me. I know these people do not just say things like that. Till I realized, of course, that's the norm. You know why? Because everyone around is a doctor. Whether you have a PhD, or you're a dentist, or you're an actual physician, everyone is a doctor. I never been into any community, anywhere, and I traveled a lot, and I've seen a ton of people, that everyone is that, subhanAllah, successful in education and in their personal life, like the brothers, subhanAllah. Why? The brothers are sincere. The brother read the Quran, read the Hadith, obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Sunnah. And when you do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify your life. They don't play around. They don't waste time. They don't hang around. They don't listen to music. They don't watch movies. They don't spend hours wasting time on the phone. What they do is for the benefit. Their benefit and everyone around them. And when you're that focused, and when you're that channeled towards success, becoming whatever you want to be is the best thing and the easiest thing that you can, subhanAllah, realize. So inshallah, if you have that sincerity and realize the gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us in the Quran and the message of Islam and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and taking the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wallahi, there's nothing that you can possibly want to achieve in the world that you cannot achieve. One small example, when you look at, subhanAllah, the Muslims, when they opened Andalus, for example, the Quds army of Andalusia, very well built army on their horses and very well equipped, were about 100,000. The Muslim army, led by Tariq ibn Ziyad, were 12,000 on their feet, not as equipped. So the ratio is 10 to 1. I want you to imagine any 10 in the masjid surrounding you, fighting you, and you in the middle. What are your chances of survival? Add to that, it was in the middle of Ramadan. What happened? The Muslim army annihilated the Quds. Totally destroyed. You want to try logic? You want to try reason? You want to try anything? You won't be able to You won't be successful in realizing that. What is the reason? You took the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Realized the hikmah, the wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. So inshallah, let's change our concept, because your concept of what is it that you're doing, why you're doing it, the purpose of doing it is more important in exactly what is it you wind up doing. Inshallah. Allahumma arhamna warham bina. اللهم اعزنا بالإسلام وأعز الإسلام بنا، اللهم أعنا واعن بنا، اللهم نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم. لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا حاجة هي لك رضا إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين. ونآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.